All right, we are live once again. Hey, everybody, it's great to see you again. Those who are joining in, tuning in by YouTube, some of you have joined the Our Village in Action website, and so you are watching us there. Others of you are on Facebook Live. We are in so many different spaces tonight. We just appreciate all of you for joining us. I think this is week 8. My team reminds me that I need to get the weeks correct, but I think this is week 8 since we've started doing this. Those who joined us in week 1, the I Can't Breathe series, was a phenomenal week. We went every day, Monday through Friday that week, and now we are just on Tuesdays, but we're giving it to you on each and every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, making sure that we're bringing up to date, making sure we're bringing you experts on the call to talk about their particular niche and talk about their particular expertise. And if you followed us this month, we have discussed economic empowerment in the Black community. And we've had some phenomenal weeks, some phenomenal guest speakers. And today we're going to talk about Black entrepreneurship. I'm going to throw out a couple of quotes and stats before we kind of jump into that discussion. Only 10% of small businesses are owned by African Americans. And of those 10%, they only hold about 10% of the receipts. And what I mean by receipts is the money that's being spent on businesses, Black businesses, is only about 10% of the money that goes into all businesses, which leads me to believe that the other 90% is going into majority white businesses. So it is so incumbent upon this day and age and this time that we're in that we think more about entrepreneurship in the Black community. And also, this is a moment that I want to just kind of pause and just really think about Jacob Blake, who has just been shot a few days ago in Wisconsin, and just thinking about his family, thinking about all that he's going through. Thank God that he is still alive. I heard today that he's paralyzed from the waist down, but we do hope and pray that he gains his strength. We do hope and pray that the systemic racism that continues to cloud the United States of America will soon be lifted, that we don't have to continue to watch murder after murder and family after family have to come to grief with their loved ones having to experience it. So my heart goes out, and I wanted to make sure that I started the show having shared that information. But tonight we've got 2 phenomenal guests. So excited to have Ernest Stretch Watson here with us tonight, as well as Moya Bailey. I would like the 2 of you just to kind of introduce yourself kind of briefly, and let's jump into these questions on Black entrepreneurship. I'm super excited about tonight. Moya, we'll start with you, and then Stretch, you can kind of clean us up.
All righty. Well, thank you, Doc, for having me. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is Moya Bailey. I am the founder of a company called Blackstreet, and we do marketing and small business development for Black-owned businesses. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, appreciate you, Moya.
My name is Ernest Watson. Everybody knows me as Stretch. I am the founder of Collision Sports, where we do consulting and pro basketball training.
Okay, great. Stretch, it's great to have you on the show. Stretch and I go way back. I've known Stretch since he was 14. Time flies when you're having fun. I watched them grow in high school, phenomenal basketball player, all the way to NKU, and a phenomenal standout athlete as well. And so, Stretch, it's great to have you on the show. Moya, I want you, Stretch, and I to kind of just enter into this kind of roundtable discussion. This won't be kind of a back and forth of Moya, then Stretch, then Moya, then Stretch. I think those conversations can be kind of redundant and boring. I really want the 3 of us to kind of enter into a conversation tonight as if we're at the dinner table, talking about Black entrepreneurship, the need for it, why you went into it, what frustrations led you there, right? What are the successes you've experienced since you've been in it, right? I want to kind of talk about all of those caveats. But the first question tonight, I want to kind of start with just some percentages. 70% or 19 million of all U.S. businesses are white owned, yet Blacks own 10% or 2.6 million of all U.S. businesses. And the question I'd like to just kind of throw out there is, how did you get into business? And why do you think many Blacks do not become entrepreneurs?
Well, I can take it out first. So I got into business. Well, I kind of always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My father owned a business growing up, so I kind of saw the benefits of it. And it was always in the back of my mind, but I went like the regular route. I went to University of Miami, and I got a degree in public relations and English, and I was a PR director for a while. But I kind of just realized that everything that I was doing for that person's company and for that person's the clients in their market, I could be doing for my own company and for my community, for Black-owned businesses. So I kind of always knew that I would do it, but there were some circumstances that actually got me into it. And I would say most people probably don't. I guess the fear and just the unknown, and probably the fear of the unknown. Like it's easy to say you're gonna like leave your job or whatever and start a business, but you really have to think about, I mean, the reality of those bills and your life, like how to maintain your lifestyle. So, and then just not necessarily knowing the steps, not having people around them that can provide that education or that kind of support that everyone needs, like a support system. So I guess those are probably a few of the factors that I think deter people from starting their own business.
No, I totally agree. I think when you're working for somebody else and you're getting everybody's recognizing you for what you do, and you still don't get it yet, then it just hits you one day. You be like, I can do this for myself. What do I have you for? You're just providing the money. So once you find that source, that revenue to come in, then you're like, I got it. I actually broke a lot of trends. College wasn't talked about.
Right.
I'm not the first one to graduate, go to college and graduate. So I never went to own my own business. I thought I planned and leave forever. I just stumbled across. I ended up out here in New Orleans. I worked for a basketball training company, and I learned a lot. I was there for 5 years, learned a lot, and you start picking up on things. And you start making your own connections, and before you know it, you just realize you can do it yourself. And that's what I did. I just ended up doing it myself, and I wanted more. A lot of obstacles you never thought about, a lot of taxes you never thought about. So you just want more for yourself, and once you do it, I say, "Oh, I'm proud of you," but then you're like, "Yeah, I don't know about this. I don't know how this lasts." But thank you. So
Yeah.
working it out.
Yeah. I have my heart goes out to that comment because you're right. Stretch. I have big jobs in my life that has, kind of led me to a great career in education. But I've always worked for somebody, and I've always provided a company or school or institution a service where I receive just this much back from them in a paycheck, right? The impact that you have on somebody, but you only get this amount back. It really started messing with me, right? To the point where I just kept thinking, this can't be real life, that I continue to give all that I have, work on weekends, work beyond an 8-hour workday, but I'm still only paid as a 40-hour work week employee, but I'm giving more hours than that, right? I was like, this math just doesn't add up.
That's exactly what happened to me. Where I was working, they started just like giving me more and more responsibilities. And as an eager employee, you wanna show that you are committed to the company, to your work. So you agree to take on these responsibilities. And then I saw that they were laying people off and just giving me their duties, and I wasn't getting their salary also. Maybe I was getting like a 10% bump, but it was all going to taxes. So I saw the sales director go, and then I was doing her duties. And then I saw the graphics design person go, and then I was doing his work. And then I just kept asking for a raise, and they eventually laid me off. They said, we can't afford you. But I just saw my value. Like, I just realized it didn't make sense for me to pretty much do everything for their company and for them. And So after the layoff, I was like, okay, this is my opportunity to do it for me.
But
That's a really good point. Did a layoff lead you stretch to entrepreneurship, or were you like, man, screw it, I'm out. I've already seen the writing on the wall. This ain't going to end well, so I'm about to start my own business.
so that's what happened. You start picking up, you start wearing different hats, and you're like, what are y'all doing? Y'all don't even pay me enough for this. But I started the consulting first. I had the opportunity to work with a young lady. She was in the to go to the WNBA, to be in the second round draft pick. And that's what made me just say, forget it. Let me just at least do the consulting. I couldn't do the basketball training. At least do the consulting of it. And wearing those different hats while I was still working at the place I was at, I started picking up on things. So I started my company while I was already at my regular the company I was working. Usually a lot of people, like she said, she did it after, which that's way I don't know. My mind would allow me to be there because I've been worried about everything else, where I'm gonna live, how I'm gonna get money. So luckily I had that steady paycheck that I can, fund the company to make sure it can be where it is.
Yeah, and I know that feels like too. You fund your dream while you still work at the day job, right? But I also realized that I never get enough time in a day. I don't know about y'all, but I never got enough time in a day. When I came home in the evening time, I would say, okay, I'm gonna set aside, 7 to 11 to work on the business. But you got to eat dinner, you got to unwind, you just want to sit and think for a minute. And I never really had those 4 hours that I had set aside dedicated to just working on the business. It never was 4 hours. It was 2 here, hour and a half there. And so I found that although I had the money to fund the side hustle or the business, it still wasn't enough time, right?
So I think I got lucky because my business tangled up all together with the company I was already at. I was already doing basketball training. So as much as I talked to more agents, as much as I talked to more players, as much as I talked to parents for younger children, when it was time to leave, I already made those connections myself. So, I had to go through a couple of things. But once I was able to fully come out with the company, it was, hey, it's me again. Talking to different managers, hey, it's me again. So the one thing I always said about myself, and I always threw it out there, and I knew what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was setting myself up for further goals. I already knew. So as much as I tell the company, hey, this is going, as if I get better, the company get better. So just like she did, she wore all these different hats. She got better, made the company get better. All right, thanks for giving me all this time. You basically, gave me all the ideas. You just showed me how to do this. I don't have to start from scratch to do, X, Y, and Z. You just showed me. Appreciate it. And you introduced me to the people that's going to do it for me. Thank you. Now, so.
That's good. Hey, Moya and Stretch, talk a little bit about your background, like your home life, what education was like going in, and then walking into entrepreneurship. Because when I did the research study, a lot of white business owners had those companies either passed on to them or they started in a company where their family members worked and they just kind of worked their way up, right? So talk a little bit about your background and the fight it took you to get to entrepreneurship.
Well, for me, like I said, my dad was an entrepreneur. Well, I'm Jamaican, so I came to America probably I was around maybe like 6, and my father, he worked for a healthcare agency at the time when we first came, and he eventually started his own healthcare agency. So I kind of saw like the difference in our lifestyle when he worked for someone else versus when he got his own business going, and he kind of owned his own time. So I know I was able to spend a lot more time with him then, and that's when I realized that like entrepreneurship is definitely the way to go for like a work-life balance kind of thing. And so I think I was really lucky that way. And also being first generation, I think like education was really important in our household. Like my parents always told us that we are going to college. They were like, you're gonna have to figure out how to pay for it, but you guys are going to college. So I think that was beneficial for me also, that I'm really lucky in that sense. But my dad eventually like lost the business, and was able to see the other side of things, like what happens when things are not necessarily managed responsibly, or when you don't when you don't have your systems in place. And that really changed. That was like a huge change in my perspective also, because it it kind of gave me, once I got into entrepreneurship, I realized like how to prepare for the worst, kind of, that like anything can happen. You just have to get things in place. So I can say that like my background, my educational background, how I came up was really like just kind of lucky for me. And I'm grateful for it, because I lucked out, I would say.
Yeah, having somebody in the house, your father, who was an entrepreneur, to kind of really help guide you. You're certainly rare. I mean, I didn't grow up with any entrepreneurs on my block, right? That's a great story.
Yeah.
So to get that,
I said there was different types of entrepreneurs on the block.
right. It was totally different. It wasn't the type of entrepreneurs that we talk about on this show, where we have 1099s and IRS and LLCs and right. We have that,
Yeah.
and so you got that Jamaican in your blood, Moya. And so, I'm sure you had that kind of hustle mentality, and you've found a way to kind of craft it. Stretch, what about you? What your background and how that may have led you to really push into entrepreneurship?
I try to look over my own life and just say how did I end up with an LLC? How did I end up in this position? I was a troublemaker. You know that. I just wanted to hoop. I was a troublemaker, chasing. So started going when I went to college. I think that changed everything. Once I was able to get around the right mindset, I think you and Pastor Staples when I really started getting around y'all once I got a little older, and going to college, pledging, going through that style, and just the mindset, the shift of that. At first when I was at home, it was a lot of trouble in the house. My friends was just the type of friends I was hanging out with. Just was wanted to do certain stuff, and I was just ready to go. I was just ready to get in the car, go to the party. So to be where I am today, I never thought. My mom always says she's proud of me. The littlest things I do, she supports. My family, they always support it. Even when I did basketball, they always support. But now it's just a whole nother level. So for myself, I wanted more, especially for my son. I didn't really have that father figure. So now it's stick out my chest and be like, hey, you got something. Even if you don't even take over the business, like, hey, you like how her father was able to be that image for her, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I think the biggest fight for me is whatever my father didn't do, make sure I do.
Yeah.
If my father didn't even teach me my ABCs, make sure I teach my son his ABCs. The littlest things like that is more motivating for me to push it even further.
That's awesome, Stretch. Like I researched in the last like 5 to 7 years, entrepreneurship in the Black community has increased from 1.9 million to 2.6. And I think a lot of that, I got to do some more research, but I think a lot of that is this generation. Stretch, your age, and Moya, your age. I'm a few years older than both of you, but I really feel like it's our generation that is becoming these new entrepreneurs, because our fathers and uncles, maybe they weren't the entrepreneurs that we're talking about today, right? They just didn't have that lifestyle. But also, y'all both mentioned education. Y'all both mentioned being educated, and not just in the college sense. Both of y'all have college degrees, but I believe that you learned some education outside of college that was even more meaningful to your journey in entrepreneurship. So talk about that for a second. What skill sets did you learn outside of college that has become so paramount to your success as an entrepreneur?
A lot of it come from pledging, just from the circle, and I think that might be a reason, the circle that you start being in, I think that circle changed, because now I look into my circle, a lot of my people now getting their PhDs, where before my circle was nobody even got their college degree. So your circle graduates, and just being in that circle, to be humble enough to be in somebody else's circle that you feel as though, how am I here? That makes you, because you don't want to get pushed out this circle. So now you like, I got to do more to make sure I stay here. So just the hustle, the mindset of you look to your right and this person's always doing something. You see that they're always coming out with something new. They might be flying somewhere to have a business conference somewhere else. And you're like, what am I doing? So you want to do more. You want to be just like that. And I ain't gonna lie, dude, this virus there since March has put my mind to it. I got a chance to just sit still. Where usually you're on the move and you gotta split yourself up in 1,000 different ways, but just sitting still, being on numerous of Zoom conference, talking to people, just picking their brains. You know it now. I hate this virus because my mind is everywhere. I want to do this. I want to do this. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. How can we make this happen? You know, how can we franchise this? So it now is been a headache, and you feel like there's not enough time in the day. You want to do more. You want to give back. You know, I'm trying to figure out how to give back. I'm trying to figure out how to put somebody in the next position as me. Because, you know, in school, they don't teach you how to be in this position. You know, if you got a jump shot, use it. You know, if you got education, you're going to college. Those are the only two, you know, in my family, either the Army or, you know, go find a job. So, you know, now is how are you able to figure this out? We know there's foundations out there, nonprofits, but they're still not being resourced where they can be outsourced to people that really can use it. I think I was just in the right circles, able to use those communications, use those ties, listen, and it worked out.
That circle is huge. You're absolutely right. The circle from high school, the circle in college, and then out, like, you know, you just keep changing circles, and some of those circles can be so influential and impactful to your success. That's so true, man. I just wanted to put that quote up from you. Stretch it. Your circle is your success. I like that. Moy, what about you? What, you know, education is great. You know, college degrees is great, but was it the things you learned in college that really helped you with entrepreneurship?
I would say, in addition to just making sure that you are not the smartest one in your circle, one of the best things that I'm learning, I wouldn't say I have learned, but is time management. Like, being an entrepreneur, you have every single thing to do. Like, everything is your responsibility, but you have the same 24 hours in the day that you did when you were an employee. So just figuring out what to delegate, when to delegate, and just what is urgent, what is important, what's both urgent and important, trying to just kind of like set time blocks for myself and be able to just set up systems, like you always say, and just figure out how to schedule myself so that I don't feel like I'm running out of time or I'm not getting things done, and I'm getting what has to be the most important things, the most urgent things done, versus just like the busy work or the things that are coming up, kind of like the whirlwind that are coming up to like throw you off. So I would say the biggest thing that in addition to the circle, is time management.
Yeah, there's a question from the chat box. James Jackson, great to have you on the show tonight. And I want to just read this question. To my understanding, most startups fail. Did any of your guests have a business plan? I'm gonna take a stab at that. I tell you, when I got started, and I have a nonprofit and a for-profit that we're just now forming. And when I started the nonprofit, I had no business plan, zero, because I always knew that if I started with a business plan, then my perfectionism, because I'm a perfectionist, I would want to make sure every part of that business plan was superb. But I think that would have stopped me from starting, because who knows how long that would have taken me to get that business plan the way that I wanted it. So for me, James, I didn't start with the business plan. I just got started. It started means I got my EIN number. I picked my my name and registered it for the company. I got the domain name, the URL, the website up. I just started putting things in place. And then when things began to be in motion, I went back to that business plan because I knew that I had to get started or I would never start. Moya, Stretch, what about y'all? Did y'all start with a business plan?
Same here, actually. I just jumped into it. And funnily enough, in my when I was a director of marketing, I did business plans for clients. And it's actually one of the services that the company does now. But when I started, same like you were saying, I just knew that I would spend so much time just trying to get it perfect, and it would never necessarily be perfect. And but then later on, I went through like an accelerator program, and we put together a business plan, and I reference it all the time because it helped me to realize like, okay, if I sell 50 packages this month, then I'm on track to meet my goals. Or if I sell 25 packages, then I have to figure out, or I need to sell more of like the smaller packages. It just helps me to keep on track and like keep my, make sure that I'm meeting my goals or reaching my goals. And if not, then figuring out what to adjust in order to meet the goals. So I didn't start with one, but I use it pretty faithfully now.
Okay.
Definitely. My first year, I didn't start with one. Again, talking to people, I think what changed my mind, what really hit me, I was at a function and I was trying to, talk to this guy, and I never carry business cards. I don't care what nobody said. If we're gonna do business, let's do business. I'm not giving you. So, he was like, okay, cool. Let me get your number and let me get your email. So, I gave him an email and it had @Gmail. It was like, oh man, I can't take you serious. And he told me right then and there, he was saying, if you came and put the money to back up the little money to try to get, your name behind something, then why should I even, talk to you? And from there on, I talked to somebody else. I started a business plan, the 6 months, the 5 year, and then you get to a point where you're like, what happens if I don't succeed? One thing that I tell people always, ask questions about how you doing it. If I was doing this for free, I still make sure it's successful.
That's good.
Money is what drives people. People saying, oh, I can make money. I can make money. Yeah, but there's gonna be a time that you're not gonna want to get out that bed. It's gonna be a time that you don't want to talk to nobody. It's gonna be a time that something's gonna happen. But what makes you thrive? And they got to be the love. And for me, it's basketball. It's the love. It's the people knowing that you help them and not trying to, write their book, but you're a chapter, you're a page in their book, and that's what pushed you more.
Yeah, the love has to be there. Switching gears just for a second, I want to know how y'all structured your business, because y'all did make a great point about how education about entrepreneurship, first, it's not taught in schools. Secondly, it's not taught in your college if you do go on. And most of the skills you guys learned was outside of both school and your colleges you attended. But as far as structuring the organization, I went back and forth. What am I supposed to be, an LLC? Am I supposed to be an S Corp, a C Corp? I had no nonprofit, right? So I ended up going online, and there was a company, Score. I think I was telling you about this company more. You probably heard about it as well, SCORE. And they provide business development help. If you want to structure your organization, you can set up a phone call, you can set up a Zoom call and talk to experts about your idea. And that was really my bread and butter. I was on the phone with these folks every week with new questions. They would answer my questions, 8, 9, 10 questions, write the responses down. Next week, come with new questions, right? So I was educating myself, getting free advice when most folks would have to pay for this, right? There's services that offer free advice. So I knew how to structure my nonprofit. I knew how to structure the for-profit and create a foundation. But I didn't learn that in school. I didn't learn that in college. I got 3 degrees. I ain't learned none of that stuff in any of the institutions that I went to, right? So I structured those 3 entities, but how did the 2 of y'all learn to structure your organization? And then number 2, why did you structure it that way and not another way?
Like I said, I was already in the company. So I had a rule, and I go by this rule now. It's a 4-4-4 rule. 4 things I like, 4 things that I want to see get better, and 4 things that I want to add. So 4 things I like. Okay, this was nice and strong. I want to keep that. So we're gonna build off that. That's the the foundation. 4 things I really didn't like, but I know I can make stronger or I can make better. Let's add that. Let's put that into it. And then 4 things that I know that's already in my mind that I want to see manifest on. So once I went from that route, just like you, I had somebody help me out and was saying, I definitely want an LLC. Do I want a nonprofit? Do I want a foundation? And I just wasn't drove for that. Remember I said, can you do it for free? So I wasn't drove for that. And again, talking to people, being in that circle, and where I wanted to be, that's what led me to where I am now.
Okay, real talk. Yeah, Moya.
For me, like I said, I was in an accelerator program. Actually, I learned about it in the unemployment office. Like I always tell the director of the accelerator program I went through, like he came through and it was just like he was glowing, like he was an angel, because it was exactly what I needed to hear about starting if you want to start a business. So throughout the course of the accelerator program, a lot of the teachers were SCORE mentors. So that's where I figured out or where I made my decision about how to structure the business. I did a corporation because I eventually want to take on investors. So in order to be able to give out shares, I chose and I incorporated it, and I did a corporation. And I learned that through the accelerator program that I went through, but definitely not in school.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, Corey, can you hear me, champ?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. How are you, brother?
Good, brother. I'm doing well, man. Great to have you on the show. We just were entering into a question, and I wanted to really kind of get your advice on. You've got 2 other entrepreneurs on the call, Moy and Stretch, both of them who have successful businesses. Corey, how did you know? Because we talk about education, how in high school and in college, we didn't learn how to become entrepreneurs, right? So the first part of the question, Corey, is where did you learn or gain the understanding about entrepreneurship? And then part B of that question is, how did you know to structure your organization quite the way that you have?
So the first question, I would say I probably learned that the same way most kids from urban communities learn how to play basketball. You just get on the court. And that's exactly what I did as it relates to entrepreneurship. I just jumped in the game and I learned as I went. I didn't learn business in college. I didn't learn business in high school. As a matter of fact, my college degree is in biology. I just knew that God had put a drive inside of me and I had a desire to do greater than the career path that I was on. As a matter of fact, the truth is I was forced into entrepreneurship because in 2003, I was working for Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and I got promoted up through the ranks. Long story short, some things took place. I ended up getting terminated, and I couldn't find a job that was paying me the way they were paying me, as soon as I got fired. And so a friend of mine came along to me. Never forget, his name was Chris Lewis. He was one of my neighbors, and he said, "Hey, man, I got a job for you doing door-to-door sales." And I laughed at him. I said, "I got 2 college degrees. I just got through making 80 grand a year. Boy, you funny." Right? I told him, I said, "Boy, you funny."
Right.
But what wasn't funny is that at the time, my wife had just discovered she was pregnant. I was at home laying on the couch playing Halo, and she wasn't having it. So I went out and I took the offer. The first week I made $400. The second week I made $1,000. And then my question was, if the guy could pay me $1,000 a week along with the other 50 people in the room, how much is he making? Yeah. So I went to Comcast. I got me a contract. Within a year of me getting my contract, I was invoicing for about $42,000 a week. So again, nobody taught me anything. I've just learned to just jump in the game. It's like double dutch. Sometimes the rope hits you. Sometimes you jump over the rope. And so I think entrepreneurship is something that you're kind of born with. Some people are born with that desire. You're born with that drive, and other people are taught how to do it. I was just one of those people that was born with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we talked earlier, Corey, right before you came on, just about our backgrounds, and if growing up neighborhood, on the street corner, we had a lot of family members who they were entrepreneurs, but not in the legal sense. You know what I mean? And so we learned that hustle from a lot of the jokers that's on the corner. We've learned how to kind of frame it into more of a legal entity. Talk a little bit, Corey, for a second about just your business, what it is that you do. Moya and Stretch kind of already talked about theirs, and I want to jump into some more of these questions on Black entrepreneurship.
So just, real quickly, a couple of things that I do that's pretty prominent. Of course, I own a tax business. I've had as many as 42 locations at one time. I've kind of downsized now. I made some adjustments because of the COVID, but it's still a very prominent business. We prepare well over 10,000 tax returns every year. Also, I own a trucking company. I've got 3 tractor trailers right now when we run contracts for Amazon. We just sealed a deal with UPS, and we'll be doing FedEx pretty soon this year as well. The third thing that I do is I do coaching. So I own this conference called Born for Business. And what I do is I teach people how to take their business to the next level, how to scale their business, how to hire people for their business and fire. I teach them the concepts of marketing and development, how to have a social media presence. And so those 3 things are the things that kind of got me where I am today, because I believe, again, that once you learn something, I think it's your responsibility to reach back and teach somebody else. And so those are the things that I do. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing. This next question, Moya, I want to kind of start with you and Corey. When I was telling everyone in the beginning, we're just kind of having a dinner conversation. This ain't no back and forth. You talk, she talk, I talk. If you feel something, just jump on in. I've found that research, at least when I was looking this weekend, shows that black business owners acquire startup funds in this way. Right, here's the breakdown. 15% of black businesses acquire startup funds from business loans and banks, just 15%. 18% from personal credit cards, but listen to this, 71% from personal and family savings, right? So the question for the 3 of you is, how did you get financially started, number 1, and then 2, have you found better ways want to get at? Why is it that we have 71% of us going into personal savings and a personal account, and it's not the other way around? Why are we not going after the banks getting the money? Why only 10 or 15% of black entrepreneurs getting loans from banks? Come on, talk to me, y'all. We put it out here on First Street tonight.
Started myself. I kept it in house, like you said. I was part of the 71%. Like I said, I was already working at a company. I started moving money slowly towards my home. Every time I did something, I never, if I did a job, I quickly put it in the bank. I quickly just did it that way. I never wanted to pay somebody back. And I didn't know how it works. I didn't know how the loan works with the companies. I didn't know how, when I first started, my personal credit goes. I had to learn about business credit. So still learning how this, how this road goes to having your own business. I wanted to eliminate all that and keep it in house. When I built it up, I didn't think it would be where it is, where, I had to, start bringing on workers, and, I couldn't have that tied on me. So I had to make sure that there was always enough. And I learned that, always make sure there's enough rainy days and all that. So just personally, I just kept it in house. There was nothing against it. It's just, I didn't trust it.
Same for me. I didn't have the credit to go after any financing, so that didn't even really cross my mind. But I was unemployed, so I just started tutoring. That was a skill that I knew that I could make some money from. So while I was in my accelerator program, I was tutoring, and the money that I made from tutoring, it barely helped me to scrape by and pay the bills, and I had a little bit left over to put towards the business. So I just bootstrapped it from the way, just from the bottom up. My first client, I just took it one by one, basically, and that's how I was able to go. And now that I've been able to work on my credit, and I've been actually talking to like a financial planner, and just someone that actually, Doc, you know them too, told me that you don't get loans or funding when you need it. So you get it before. So you have to go after it when when you feel like you don't need it, and you're okay, like you're able to maintain, you're not necessarily looking to grow at that time. Like that's when I realized, or I found out, that's when that's the time to go after the money. So I'm working on that now. That's my priority right now. But initially, it was just bootstrapping. I just built from one client up.
So my story is a little bit different. So what I did is, obviously I couldn't go to the bank like I think it was Moya said. I didn't have the credit at the time, but I took a different approach. So when I first started my tax company, before I started a tax business, I prepared taxes for 1 year. So if I could give somebody a strategy or a point, I would say do some research about the industry or the market that you're going into. And so what I did is I did a lot of research. I went into this market. I seen the profitability in this market. When I decided to start my tax business, I brought in 50 people and I gave them an investment opportunity. I gave them investment opportunity and I gave them a guarantee. Now, the one thing about the tax industry is the average tax preparation fee across the country is right at about $350. So that means if you do 10 tax returns, that's $3,500. You do 100 tax returns, that's $35,000. You do 200, that's $70,000. And so I showed people and I gave them a roadmap. If you invested into my tax business, number one, I guarantee that you could get your money back, because my first year doing taxes, I did over 350 tax returns personally. And so I knew I had the clientele. I knew I had the database, because most taxpayers follow the tax preparer. And so what I did is I brought them in and I gave them an opportunity to invest small amounts, 5,000, I think it was 3,500, 5,000, or 10,000. Out of the 50 people that I invited to my investment opportunity, I want to say that 27 to 30 of them invested that day. And about 10 of them came back and invested within 2 months. The point I want to make is that even if you don't have the capital, if you've got the vision, you've still got the opportunity. If you can articulate your vision, you can articulate your business plan, you can show them how they can make their money back. People are always looking for investment opportunities. And so that's what kind of gave me a hand up. Wasn't a handout because I paid everybody back, but that's what put me in the game and allowed me to get to 42 locations within 3 years.
I think
that's good.
Things that, kind of hurt a lot of us can't articulate our vision. We know what we want, but when it comes to telling other people, and they'll laugh or they'll be like, I don't know. Like, I think that's the main problem. That's why a lot of people don't have their own business. I think that's what discourages a lot of people. I think that's what a lot of people might fail at.
So,
so
if I could,
it's the fear. I mean, I hear all of you say you kind of just jumped into it, right? And so there are a lot of folks out here who are super intelligent, right? And all of us that are on the call, the four of us, we just jumped into entrepreneurship. Like, we didn't really care what anybody thought after a while. But there are a lot of folks who are calculated. There are a lot of folks who are introverts. There are a lot of folks who are book nerds. A lot of folks who, don't like to take risks, right? But those are some of the folks that probably should be entering into entrepreneurship, because there is a niche. They found that market where they can really provide something, right? So outside of just get in the game, because if you ain't used to playing the game, you can't just get in the game. Like I know there was thousands of hours I spent on the court by myself before I went to tryouts. Had to be, because I wanted to be better prepared. So what would y'all say to individuals who want to be part of the game, but they just a little nervous about even getting started?
Well, it's a couple of things. That I would say really quickly. I would say, number one, figure out how involved you want to be with the game or entrepreneurship. There's different levels. There's different layers. So you can be a silent partner. You can be just an investor. or you can be a hands-on person. If you are calculated, if you're an introvert, if you're somebody that is a thinker, and you have to think about things multiple times before you do it, I would say that write out a strategy, write out a goal, write out a timeline or a roadmap to success that will get you there. Because ultimately, the only thing stopping you from success is you starting. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of rejection. I can't see the brother's name right there, but I want to go back to what he just said very quickly. Just say this. What I learned very quickly in business is that if you're looking for people to support you, unfortunately, most time you have to go outside of your circle. You got to go outside of people that you know, that you frequent, because, again, not to bring religion into this, but even the people that knew Jesus says, isn't that the carpenter's son? And so the reality is that familiarity and people being connected with you and knowing you from when you came up may hinder them from seeing your business mind and the opportunity that you're presenting before them. And so if you are that person, you're that introvert, or you're scared to do it because people don't support you, you get over that, write it out, and force yourself to do things that make you uncomfortable. Because your success comes after you become uncomfortable. And I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, that's good. That your success comes after you've been uncomfortable. That's good. That'll preach.
So for me, I mean, it sounds cool to say that like I just jumped into it and all that. I guess it sounds cute, but like I had to go back and live with my mom. Like it was not cute.
Yeah, real talk. Yeah. We talked about that last week, Moya, when we had a home ownership kind of experts come on and talk about, Black home ownership. Many of them were saying, don't be afraid to go back home and live with mom and dad until you can stack that cheddar up and get that home, as opposed to renting, right? So, yeah, go ahead and share that story.
That's one thing I'm so grateful. I know I can always go back and live with my mom. But so I had to go, like I said, I was laid off. So I said, okay, like what can I had to cut obviously the cost. So I went back home to live with my mom, and just like, I guess like her support, just her believing in me that I could actually turn a business into something, kind of gave me the motivation. Like I was like, okay, if she really can't like see me living in her house every day, not doing anything, and she can believe that like I have the potential and I'm doing the work to make something of this business, like that really motivated me also. And I would say like if you are employed, like even if you, like how you mentioned, Doc, that like you set out that 7 to 11 time block to work on your business. But even if you do the 1 hour a night, and then eventually the next month you get up to doing 2 hours a night on the business, and you still have your employment, so you hopefully are putting away, are able to put away a little bit to invest in the business. And you could even like start with something small, like maybe like an e-commerce website, or I guess like a digital download type of thing, like a digital product, and kind of like test the waters while you are still employed, so you can make your mistakes and you don't necessarily have to go back home and live with your mom. So I would say if you still do have that employment, take that, just like, even if you aren't getting as much done as you would like, just every step in the right direction counts.
I use 3 words. I tell somebody, sacrifice, determination, and hope. Those 3 words will push you to where you never thought. And to be afraid of failure, about what people's going to say, that's not something you can hide. That's not something you can just shield off. And Corey said it. You have to step out your circle, but that's your comfort zone. My circle, my friends, my family, hey, support me. And once they put you down, it's like, maybe I can't do this. Maybe maybe I should just chill a little bit. And then you start, well, I have this, but I'm not really putting all that I can into that because, nobody was really supporting me. I used to look at it, if nobody was retweeting or liking or reposting, they didn't support me. Support comes in different ways. So at that point, you hear all of us sacrificing. You hear us, having to go back to stay at their mom's place, or You know, my man was playing Halo till, you know, his wife told him to get up off that couch. Like, we all had to sacrifice something, and then
Right.
that determination made it to where we are today. And then just that little bit of hope of knowing that you can do something greater outside of yourself. I heard Corey say also, you want to get back. I know I want to get back. I know Mo want to get back. You want to get back because you want to help the next generation to be in the position that we're in. We're not about just, oh, I'm just be up here and, oh man, I don't even know how I got up here. Huh? Nah, we all want to get back because that's nobody was able to help us like that. You know, hey, these are the steps, figure it out. So where now I think the biggest thing I tell somebody, get a mentor. You know, about 3 or 4 mentors. You know, get a mentor, talk to that mentor, and get somebody that going in that direction. You can't a mentor can't tell me how to save money and be financial when they're not doing it. You know, how are they life? What are they doing? Are they invested? Do they, you know, the simple stuff? Do they have health insurance? You know, how are they directing their life that they can make my life more positive? You know? So those 3 words: sacrifice, determination, hope.
Yeah, that's good. Those who are just joining us for the first time, we are broadcasting from so many different channels. You are on YouTube, we're on Facebook Live, Our Village in Action website, ourvillageinAction.com. We have just hitting y'all from all over. We had over 700 views last week on the home ownership episode. Tonight is Black Entrepreneurship. Corey Hughes, Moya Bailey, Stretch Watson are all giving it to us raw about just Black ownership. And what I'm hearing tonight that seems to be a very common theme amongst the 3 of you is there's just got to be enough drive, enough grit, enough determination to really see yourself succeed. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. And so if you're comfortable with just, you know, a 9-to-5 job and you want to clock in and clock out, then stop complaining about, you know, them not seeing your worth, because they're not going to see your worth, right? If your worth will be seen when you step out your comfort zone, as all have shared tonight, and you do something that kind of goes against everything that you've ever been taught. And then you wonder, well, what's wrong with our school system? Well, nothing is wrong with the design of the school system. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The school system design is to have you work for somebody else. That's the design of the school system. So it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. What you're trying to do and what we've done is go against the grain and go against everything that we have probably been taught formally in education and a lot of school of hard knocks. But like Stretch said, there are mentors who have been assigned to your life, mentors who have been written in your life, and you're going to see them on different spaces and seasons of your life. Well, they'll begin to help you get to where you want to go. And I tell you, the positive affirmations, I don't know what you do when you wake up each and every morning, those who are listening to us, but you got to put in the atmosphere what you want to happen in your life every morning and every night. You need to say that thing over and over and over again, and just watch that energy start coming back to you. You'll start receiving the very thing that you put out there. There's a chat that came from YouTube, a question I want to throw out there to each of you really quick before we I want to kind of just start with you because it was from a young woman, who's truly Black-owned business woman, and I find it hard in a very competitive field to be a Black woman to stand out. So how can I stand out as a Black woman in a very competitive field where there's not a lot of people who are my skin tone and not a lot of people who are women?
Sometimes I think that works to our advantage, that we do stand out. Like I do a lot of work with people who own construction companies, and I know that you know, when you are a woman, especially a Black woman, and you come in and you know what you're talking about and you can add value to the conversation in the room or to that person who you're talking to, who you're trying to bring on as a client, then I think it kind of like hits harder than if like it's coming from a white man or if it's coming from a white woman, just because unfortunately I don't think that people necessarily expect that from Black women. So I think that once it just takes a little time with like getting comfortable with what you want to say and just like being sure of what you want to say and being confident that you are adding value and that you pretty much know what you're doing, that these people are here to listen to you or to speak with you, and you have something good to offer them, so they're gonna listen pretty much.
That's good. Another question from the chat. Corey and Stretch, I want you guys to attack this question just from your own lens. My business is growing by word of mouth. My customers are satisfied, but it's not enough to quit my other job and do this full time. What advice can you give if my business is only growing by word of mouth to be able to transition out of the job I'm doing into the job I really want to do?
Bet on yourself. Pay for some marketing.
All right, that's no problem. So it's not a bad thing that you have a 9 to 5, that you're taking the chance, like most days you're betting on yourself already. What now I would just suggest is having those people keep talking. Mouth of words goes a long way. That's how my business became what it is. It wasn't about promoting this, putting this on this coffee cup, and trying to get T-shirts out. It wasn't none of that. It's just who believes in you. So once somebody really believes in you, they're going to say, "Oh, you should talk to them." Whatever the business is. I'm just in the basketball world, so now if I train somebody and they go and talk to somebody else, the revenue I just saved, I don't touch it. Keep it in there, keep it going. Something that I did, differently, and Dr. Otley talked about it. I wanted to make sure I don't be a company where now I have people come in there and work for me. I actually built a brand. So even though they work underneath the umbrella of Collision Sports, they have to market themselves, and I'm helping them. I even started a coaching mentorship. I'm helping them where don't rely on me. Don't just come to work and say you're getting paid. How are you going to market yourself? How are you going to put it out there? Take that chance. Put yourself on social media. Put yourself on YouTube. Go to door to door. I actually did it back in 2015. I was putting flyers on people's cars, just like I was a club. I'm putting my flyers on cars. And it sounds cliche, but nobody do what people are not going to applaud you for. You don't have to put it out there, everything that you have to do to work up to where you are now. But think outside the box. How can you make it to that next level? Like I said, just, email somebody. If they're in the same business as you, humble yourself. I think that's another word, because you have to humble yourself, because a lot of people like talking about themselves. So, hey, I got a question. How did this happen? When they in their inbox ask them a question, they hit you back. Great. If they don't worry about it. Move on. Look at other people. Look at what they do. Are they, simple as mowing the grass? What are they doing on that? How are they able to buy the equipment for that? Maybe I just got to save up. Hey, go talk to a local person. Whatever you have to do. It's hard too. Definitely hard.
Mm-hmm. Yes, good.
Okay, so
Corey,
this is what I would say. I want to give you some tangible steps here. So if I heard the question properly, what you said is that you're making money off word of mouth, but it doesn't amount to what you need to get off of your 9 to 5 job that you're doing right now. So let's figure out what it's going to take. So if you're by word of mouth, if you're selling 15, you need to get to 45 in order to supplement that income. The question is, what is your strategy to get to 45? Your business is like a relationship. All right. And so right now, your business is your side piece and your job is your wife. Right. And so if you got to learn to put more time and more energy in that that is important. All right. And so what I'm saying, it may be a bad analogy, because I see Moya, she kind of smiled like, wait a minute. Bad analogy. She kind of looked like, excuse me. Okay. Bad analogy. Get what I'm saying. You get out of it.
Corey, you broke up. Say it again.
Did I come back? Am I back?
There you are, Corey. Yeah, there you are. Say it all over again.
So bad analogy. Point is, you get out of it what you put into it. And so here's what I would suggest. you have to figure out a scalable path for you to take that business to the next level. For example, I realize that if I'm getting word of mouth and my business is starting to do well, but I'm not meeting the number that I need, I got to figure out what I need to do to take that to the next level, which means if I'm doing taxes, if I do Doc's tax return, I'm going to ask him for 10 referrals. I'm not only going to ask him to send me business, but I'm going to get 10 referrals so that I can call them and I can say, Doc came and got his taxes done and he was satisfied. I'd like to offer you that same service. All right. And so you've got to develop a scalable plan to say, this is where I am. This is where I want to be, whether it's losing weight, whether it's working on your credit, whether it's to purchase a home, everything else is scalable. Let's scale your business in that way as well, so that that success is something that you can attain and you can see a strategy and a pathway to get there. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I made up for the side piece wife comment.
Hey, you amongst family, man. This is all good, and I understood it. You know, the scalable path or plan is so important, Corey. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because many of us who do get into business, the research shows that our business will last 1 to 3 years, and then that's it, because we never developed the scalable plan. Not because we didn't develop the business plan, because the business plan is there, but within the business plan, there's no way for you to scale, right? And so I'm glad you mentioned that, Corey. You scaled your business in 3 different ways because you have 3 businesses. Really quickly, Moya, and then Stretch, talk about how you have scaled your business from the time you started it, its origin, its inception, into where you see it going. What tools and resources have you used to scale your business?
Well, I kind of focused on trying to make sure my eggs weren't all in the same basket because of what I saw happen with my family. Once I got Black Street running and I was generating some income, I started another business, and e-commerce, like an online retail business. So, and then once that started working, I started another one selling different products. And just so that I could have my different streams of revenue, just in case something goes wrong or slows down with one, then I have the others to fall back on. And then now I'm getting more into putting together a plan to scale Black Street. And with that, that's where I'm considering like the alternate funding options, is talking to banks, CDFIs, just getting the money together that I may not necessarily need now, but it will become necessary to scale up. Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of taking the steps now to scale up.
Okay. And then Stretch, talk about your scaling.
I believe I started where I just wanted to do, and this happened all the time, I just wanted to do one box. I just wanted to be in this particular box. I didn't really step outside that box to do other things. So now it's like, you got to do this. I want to be different. I didn't want to go too off. And I wanted to make sure it was just a 360. So no matter what you need with basketball, you'll come here.
Right.
I get to a certain point, people always was like, well, you might end up being an agent. No. Then I was saying, maybe I want to have agents within the company. You know, it came along like that. Like I told you before, I hate this virus. This virus got my mind. I want to do this. Oh, I can do this. Let me get my hands in this. Let me, do a partnership with this guy in Chicago, a partnership in LA, and, all these different things. And before you know it, things just inspire. And then one thing I didn't want it to happen, I didn't want too much stuff going on, and I just being in pieces where I couldn't really develop like I want to. So I had to scale myself back. I got ahead of myself a little bit, scale it back, put support behind it, build that section out, make sure it goes fully where it can function on its own. Okay, let's get to this. And I went to the importance where we're doing, basketball training, we're doing videos, we do workouts. So for a lot of the pros, especially right now, they're at home, they have their own gym and stuff. We'll draw out their workouts, go in detail, we watch their film, they get a whole packet, do this, in description, everything is broken down, do this, this, and this. Then it was, not only, I think the person was saying, how can I, word of mouth, not only did we want to talk to the players about it will want to go to the agents. The agents have way more than one person. Hey, you might represent 25 different people. Hey, who will be interested in this? So we start talking to different agencies. We start adding on something for the high school level, for high school coaches that want to coach but don't know those proper terms or don't know how to run plays. We added that in there for them, where we break down college playbook and able to sell that to them. So it was so many things that we wanted to do that, there's so many nights that I was fussing, because then you get in the habit, like, well, this is my company. I want to do this. Nah, you don't have the funding for it. You don't have the people in place for it. And we got to make this bigger than what you can. So I think I had to step back at one point, even though everything was going well. I had to step back, break things down, take out what was the most important, I think, at the time, and then go forward from there, which is still happening even now. Like I said, this virus just still have your head spinning and want to do more.
Yeah, that's good. I want our folks who are listening and who will listen to this show to be able to follow the three of you. You have shared some amazing things, and I believe, as we talked about mentorship, sometimes mentorship is with people you know and people you meet. But I've had the best mentors in books I've read, and I've never met the author. They have become some of the best spiritual advisors, some of the best business gurus, some of the best self-improvement, confidants that I have ever read about and never met face to face, right? So I want guests who will listen to this tonight and then listen to this in the future to be able to follow you and your work. So Stretch, I want to put on the banner really quick what your Instagram handle is, and then Moya and then Corey, I'm going to ask you for yours in a minute. What's your Instagram handle, Stretch?
Step up and get clown.
Is that all one word?
All one word.
Step up and get clown?
Yeah.
All right, so is that it right there? Did I get it right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. All right, so those who are listening by web, Step Up and Get Clown is how you can follow Stretch. Moya, give me yours.
Mine is Moya D. Bailey. So my first name, D, and then Bailey.
Moya D. Bailey.
Yep.
Okay. Did I spell it correctly?
Yep, that's me.
Okay, so follow Stretch, follow Moya D. Bailey, and then Corey. Brother, it's great to have you on the call tonight as well. What is your Instagram?
It's just Corey L. Hughes, Corry L. Hughes, Hughes.
Corey L. Hughes, Hughes.
Yeah, Hughes, yeah.
Hughes.
That's it.
Did I get it right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, the three of you, Corey, Moya, Stretch, man, it has been a delight. I really wish we had more time. We're probably going to do another one of these economic empowerment months, really, because I believe that the second wave of COVID will really hit our community differently than it hit it the first time. And there are some things we should be thinking about in preparation for that. We already have seen school systems that have now had to send kids home because of COVID outbreaks. You've seen colleges that had in-person meetings, and now they're going virtual. So we really haven't gotten this thing right, but I believe there is something that all of us, our community especially, can start designing, building, planning, and preparing right at home. And I think it's great mentors like the three of you that could really begin to speak this life into people who are trying to figure out what to do next. So thank you. It's been a blessing to have all of you on the call tonight. Join us next week, everybody, on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We look forward to having you. For the replay of tonight's broadcast, you can catch it on ourvillageinaction.com, Facebook Live, or YouTube Live. All right. Hey, Corey, Moya, Stretch, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.